Hi, welcome back. In this video, I will be highlighting the structure and concepts I used in my Selenium framework, where I will cover how I built my Selenium project, organized my code to prevent code duplication, and designed it to run important common code before and after each test case. This will include discussing Maven and Selenium concepts such as page object model, base files, TestNG annotations, and special features I automated that can be used in any automation project. Keep in mind again that the videos in this series are not for teaching automation, but rather for demonstrating what my coding style is like. Also in this video, I'll keep it as non-technical as possible, where detailed code walkthrough will be to a minimum, so that a greater range of audience members can better understand the concepts I implemented in this project. As mentioned in my past videos, I wrote my Selenium code in Java within the TestNG framework using the Eclipse IDE and MySQL to store test data and test results. I also developed a QA web portal in PHP. The portal makes it easy for people without technical skills to kick off automation runs and to be able to view test results. In this video, I will concentrate on the Selenium framework. Eclipse is my IDE where I write all my Selenium automation code. Before I began writing automation test cases, I needed to create a Selenium project in Eclipse. This included installing Selenium and other files that can work with Selenium. Instead of installing the files manually, I use Maven. Maven is a build automation tool used for Java projects. At the Maven repository website, I can find plugins and dependencies that I can use in my Selenium project. Here's the dependency for the latest version of Selenium Java files. Files that will allow me to work in a Selenium project. All I have to do is copy this XML code and paste it into my project's POM XML file, and all the files will be downloaded and compiled into my project each time it is opened or the XML file is saved. The POM XML is the Maven page object model file that is used to manage the dependencies. Here in Eclipse, you can see the POM XML file I used to build my project to my specifications. Here's the Selenium dependency code I copied from the Maven repository. There are many dependencies I needed for my project, but I will show you just a couple more. Here's the dependency for running MySQL code in my Selenium test cases. And here's the dependency for working in the TestNG framework. Some of the benefits of using a Selenium framework like TestNG is that using it makes it easy to control the grouping, ordering, and parameterization of test cases. Using annotation provided by TestNG allows this to be done. Placing annotations directly above a method's definition gives the method special features. I will refer to these methods as annotation methods. In my data-driven video, I already explained how the dataProvider annotation can be used to make it easy to utilize the test data from a database as well as from an Excel file to easily make a test case data-driven. There are many other TestNG annotation methods I've used in my project, but for now I want to concentrate on 4 very important ones that get used every time I run a test run in my project. These 4 will be used to test pre- and post conditions for executing the run of test cases. One annotation method is called once at the start of a test run, before any test cases begin executing, and another is called after all the test cases in a run finish executing. These are the before suite and after suite annotation methods. The other 2 are the before method and after method annotation methods, which are respectively called before and after every test case is executed. I will explain how I use these 4 annotation methods. First, in case you are new to Selenium, I want to make sure you are aware that what makes a method a test case is the annotation test that is placed directly above the method. Using the other 4 annotation methods, along with the test annotation, ensures the sequence of all 5 methods are executed in the correct order. Here's the before suite method. I named the methods the same as the annotations. Before any test case executes, this method executes. This will execute MySQL statements and store procedures so that the database tables are ready to be updated with test results for the new run, as explained in my previous videos. As a reminder, this includes copying records for all the test cases that are to be executed from the test case all table to the test cases results table, as well as adding a new run ID record to the runs table. The before method is called next. It's called before execution of each test case. I coded it to check the database to see if the test case was listed to run or not. If not, the test case will not execute. This check is done by seeing if the test case name is listed in the runs table, as well as checking to see if it already passed or not. TestNG framework includes a way to retry running a test case again immediately after it fails, instead of running the next test case. but often we want to retry the failed test cases after all the test cases in the run are executed at least once, which is how my framework is set up. Checking the database for the test result is just one piece of my code that is needed in order to rerun only the failed test cases. In my next video, I will demonstrate the rerun code I created. The before method also resets test case information stored in variables, such as the step number, status, and step messages. This is so the test case information from the previous executed test case does not get reported in the next test case that will execute. TestNG has a built-in feature to generate HTML reports too, called extent reports. I did some experimenting with it and got it to work. When running test cases in parallel, there were some issues with it, as well as with my custom HTML reports. I figured out how to fix my custom reports to work properly, and will later work on updating the code for the extent reports. Before method also initializes the WebDriver. After each test case is executed, the after method annotation method is called. It generates a report for each test case as an HTML file where the QA web portal I created can be used to display the test case results. The after method also updates the MySQL database with test results information for each test case, as well as the name and location in the server for each test case HTML result file. After all the test cases in the runs execute, the after suite annotation method is executed. It combines all the failed test steps from all the test cases executed during the run and reports them into a single HTML test report. And finally, the after suite method updates the run database table with the location and name of the HTML file generated and the total count of the failed and passed test cases for the run. For more information on the generated HTML reports, MySQL tables, and stored procedures in my project, please make sure to watch my previous videos as outlined with links to them in the description under this video. Please note that as mentioned in previous videos, I named some of the folders and classes after characters in a book, and one of them was named Bug. So this was way before I thought to share my code with you and others. So I will just ignore saying bug during these videos. The next part of the framework I will be covering in this video will be about base classes. In Java, when you create a class, it should be in a file named the same as the class. Most every project I've worked on required hundreds of test cases to be automated. To be more organized and to run a particular group of test cases, it is always best to have multiple classes where like test cases are defined in the same class. And even though the test cases may be different from each other, there are usually many very similar sets of code that must be executed for each class of test cases. All the code in the annotation methods I covered in the last part of this video that execute before and after each test case and at the start and end of a test run is the code that needs to be executed for all test cases in my project. Instead of making copies of the same pre- and post-condition annotation methods into each test case class, I created them in a single class, referred to as a base test class, and defined them in there. I named mine as base test. And in each class that contains test cases, I extended the class to inherit the methods and code in the base test by using the extends keyword. Here's the test case class TestSuite TQA that contains the practice forum's data-driven test cases. Here is another test class that inherits code from the base test class. This group of test cases are for when I am working on code enhancements for reporting passed and failed information properly. Here is another test class that will use the base test class. I use it to make sure the reporting worked correctly when I ran 5 test cases in parallel on the same machine. My base test class also contains variables and getters and setters used to store test results and to configure test settings which will be used throughout the run. I also have another class that extends the base test class, named ActionUD. This is where I keep common methods that could be used to do actions and verification on different types of web elements. They include the methods I covered in previous videos and more, such as enter field data, verify field data, exist, and more. These methods are mostly portable, so they could be used to test other websites besides the Tools QA website in my project. But it also includes methods that are not web element related, so they will be later relocated to another class. They include methods for reporting results and executing MySQL queries and stored procedures. In order for them to work properly, they need to inherit the base test class code too. Besides test classes, my framework also uses a page object class for each web page in the project. All the page object classes also use common code, so a single base page object class was also used, just like a single base test class was used. Before going into the common code, let me first explain how the page object classes are used in my framework. My framework uses the page object model, which is used to reduce code duplication of the same web element. Instead of rewriting the same code to identify the same web element over and over in different or even in the same test case method, as well as rewriting code to do the same types of actions and verifications on it, the code is written only once and defined in one of the page object classes. As an example, here is the page object class for the practice forums page. There are two parts here, one to identify all the elements in the page, and one to do actions and verifications on all the elements in the page. The first part is for identifying the elements in the page. This locator that identifies the first name text field element will not be written again in any code for doing actions or verifications on the text field. Instead, this web element variable type will be used. This way, if the developer changes the properties of the element so that the automation code no longer identifies it, the automation engineer only needs to modify the code here, and only once, instead of everywhere the code is used throughout the automation project. The web elements defined in a page object class are only hard-coded in methods defined in the same class and the second part of the class. And here's the second part, where methods are used to do actions and verifications on the elements. As explained in my previous videos, the pop and enter field data methods are used to do actions to the elements, and the verify and verify field methods are used to verify values of the elements in the page. This is where the first name web element is used to type text into it, and to verify correct text is inside the text field. Now, the code that is common across all the page object classes is for a concept that is part of the page object model framework, which is the page factory. This is the page factory code in the base page object class that needs to be inherited in the page object subclasses. Page factory allows me to initialize the elements, or rather instantiate the page object itself by using the @findBy annotation. And here's the code to initialize all the elements in the page. Here's the code to identify the first name text field. With it, there's no longer a need to use the driver.findElement code. The web element can be used instead. As in this example, first name can be used directly with a method. Stepping through this method, we eventually get to this code, where the variable element holds the instantiated web element first name. So this line is the same as this first commented code. There is no need to hardcode the locator and no longer the need to pass it into a driver.findElement line of code like this here. The last thing I want to do in this video is look back at the different classes already mentioned and give a quick summary of how they are used to build test case methods. I have my actions class where I created mostly methods to do actions and verifications on any type of web element. For instance, there is a method named exist, which will wait up to a certain time for a text field or any other type of element to exist. But you need to pass in the name of the element as an argument, such as first name. None of the methods in the action class are hard-coded for a specific element, only for element types. Basically, the methods defined in the action class are designed to be only called in methods defined in the page class. And the methods defined in the page class are designed only to be called in a test case method. This structure makes the code very organized, easy to maintain, and helps prevent code duplication. So this video should have given you a good understanding of the Selenium framework I've implemented. It's not the complete framework, but it does cover the majority of the framework. I have a few more videos on the way that will cover some of the concepts briefly touched here, but with more detail. If you have any questions, please email me at the email address that can be found in the description under this video. Please also look for the link to my next video there. Thank you.